Get out of this. No, right? Yeah. I'll push you. You get that side, I'll get this side.
Folks, we do have about 5 minutes until the start of service, so if you need to utilize the restroom or grab a bottle of water, now is the appropriate time to do so.
I don't know, Timmy. I was seeing if you wanted to come over by me and leave the in-laws over there.
Yeah, I'll say it. Yeah.
Of course, summer in Austin with the crazy ones. You and I will take our easy one.
That's what my therapist says.
Unfortunately, I don't think I've seen this many babies to adults since I've been in school. I gotta be honest. Good thing we stock up on juice boxes. My name is Max Routzog. I'm today's field director, and it's such an honor to be here and celebrate Tim Andrews with you guys. Just a couple things before we get started here. If you have one of these in your pocket, go ahead and turn it off. Otherwise, I'm going to call you out in the middle of the service. It's a huge thing. But no, I should see a little bit more shuffling. If you could, seriously, turn them off. Thank you all for being here. I know it means the world to the family. And afterwards, I know there's going to be a luncheon, and it's two of my personal favorites, chicken tenders and meatballs afterwards. Very good for a good lunch. That being said, we've got a couple orders of events here. We're going to have a Masonic ceremony. We're going to have some military honors. If you are a current member of the military or a veteran, I do encourage you to place your hand over your heart or salute the flag. That being said, I'm going to turn everything over to Brian.
Good morning, everyone. As Max said, we're going to start with honoring Tim's time with the Masons. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Routzog.
Well, good morning. I'm Tommy Routzog, and I represent the ancient accepted Scottish Rite in the Valley of Dayton in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction. And as we as Masons, and particularly Scottish Rite Masons, are assembled here today to pay our last tribute of love and respect to our deceased brother Tim, we as Masons are reminded again that the angel of death is no respecter of persons. The young may die, the old must die, and the wisest of us know not how soon. And there is none who escape the majestic walls of the king's palace, and the most humble cottage and most lonely peasant are alike open to his assault. For where'er the dart is pointed, the mark is certain, and the victim falls. Such has been the fate of man throughout every age. Such has been the fate of man in his most exalted moment. And such will be the fate of each one of us assembled here today. Today, perhaps the sun of prosperity and happiness may shine down upon us and our families. Health and strength invigorate us. But tomorrow, some friendly heart will stand next to our lifeless remains inside. Alas, Brother Tim. Several years ago, Tim knocked at the door of Freemasonry, and its portals were open wide to receive him. Later, he affiliated with that particular branch of Masonry known as the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite. And in that rite, he became a 32nd degree Mason. in that rite on the 1st of April. In 1963, he was chosen a Grand Elect Mason. Now, part of the solemn and impressive ceremonies on that occasion, while kneeling at the altar of Masonry, the Holy Bible, square and compasses, opened before him and surrounded by the brethren of the rite. He was presented this gold ring, which was placed on his third and wedding band finger of his left hand as a symbol of the alliance that he that day had contracted with virtue and the virtuous. Now, inside this ring is inscribed a legend, and that legend states, "Whom virtue unites, death cannot separate." Whom virtue unites, death cannot separate. The ring itself, being an endless band of gold, is emblematic of eternity, and with the motto inscribed therein, symbolizes the eternal nature of virtue and truth. Now, our brother Tim was charged never to part with this ring during his life, nor at his death, except to give it to his eldest son, his wife, or dearest friend. Our brother has been faithful to this charge. And now, in accordance with this covenant and the solemn usage of our order, is now my honor and my duty to perform this last duty connected with this, his Scottish Rite ring. Tim, in the name of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite, and on behalf of my dear friend and your father, Tim, it is my honor again and my duty to present you with this, the Scottish Rite ring. It is a beautiful symbol of love and affection, and I trust that when you look upon this ring, you will be reminded of the motto that is inscribed there. Whom virtue unites, death cannot separate. The ring is now yours to keep as a very precious and sacred. Brother Tim, life's work, well done. Life's race, well run. Life's crown, well worn. And now comes rest. For we as Masons believe that death is not the end beneath the cold, cold sod, but only an end by the side of our road on our journey to God.
That here one's my future holiday. That being said, we will have military honors. So again, if you are current, former, or retired military, I ask that you salute the flag or place your hands over your heart. Thank you.
The President of the United States, the United States Army, and the grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for the loved one's honorable and faithful service.
Well, again, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here on behalf of the family. Both those services were powerful, weren't they? We just don't have the privilege of being able to honor World War II veterans enough these days. And I also want to say I have a huge respect for our military and our families. And so for any of you here today who have served our country, on behalf of the rest of us, just thank you. Thank you very much. As Max said, one of the youngest crowds we've ever had. And I always like to say I'm a grandpa of 3 young grandchildren, so you parents just let the kids be kids, all right? That's part of the beauty of being here today. This is part of Tim's legacy, so I recognize that, Dad. I'm really tired to cry, so you just let them be there. Because this is, I was so impressed when I got here today just with the energy that was in this room. And that says a lot about Tim and the family and the impact, and it's just so important that you're here today. My name is Brian. I'm what they call a funeral celebrant. I have a normal day job like most of you. I'm a leadership consultant by day. But I do this because several years ago I lost my mom to cancer. And doing what you're doing today, like coming together, the whole family, and sharing stories and looking at pictures and just being together, it is a huge part of the healing process. So thank you so much. I was able to talk to the family. And my privilege is being able to hear the story of someone I never had the privilege of knowing. And I am a firm believer that every life is a story that deserves to be told. And it is such an honor to be able to, if Tim's life was a Netflix documentary, I would watch it. It's just an amazing life that he has been able to live. And I know that there's been some health struggles here most recently, but when I read that on his 90th birthday, he played 90 minutes of tennis, worked out at the gym for 90 minutes. I'm 60. That wore me out just reading it. I mean, that was unbelievable of the life that he has lived. And when you think about him being born in 1928, that would have made him a child right on the heels of the Great Depression and everything that would have meant. He would have been there for the before, during, and aftermath of World War II, where he served our country, for the Civil Rights Movement, the moon landing, for Vietnam and Korea, the invention and rise of the personal computer. I mean, back in the day, one computer would have taken up most of this room. And now today we carry them around in our pockets and purses. Just think of the things, his generation has been referred to as the greatest generation. And I don't think that's 1 ounce of an exaggeration. There was a sense of patriotism, family, duty, work ethic, community involvement that still exists today, but not nearly to the level that it did back in his day. I don't think that any other 100-year period will ever see the amount of macro change that generation saw. A very wise person once said, it's okay to miss him. It's okay to say his name every day. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to breathe deeply. It's okay to smile when you think of him. It's going to be okay to have days when you can function, and it's going to be okay to have days when you just can't. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be thankful. It's okay to remember. It's okay to hope. And the biggest thing is, it's okay to be honest about exactly how it is you're feeling. The biggest thing that I've learned over the last decade about grief is it's kind of messy. And it affects everybody differently because everybody has a different relationship. And the best thing that family and friends can do for each other after a loss like this is just give each other the space to feel however it is you need. Because the only real right way to grieve is exactly how you're grieving right now. I'm a big reader, and one of my favorite authors is a guy named Frederick Bachman. And I was reading one of his books the other night, and this paragraph popped off the page, so I got up and I typed it out because I thought it was so powerful. He said, over time I've realized that deep down, almost everyone asks themselves the same sort of questions about life, especially as we get older. We start to ask ourselves the question, Am I a good person? Have I made anyone proud? Was I useful to society? Was I good at my job? Am I considered generous and considerate? Does anyone want me to be their friend? Have I been a good parent? Am I a good person? And ultimately, we ask ourselves the question, you know what, did my life even matter? And by you guys turning out in such a powerful way today, you are making a collective statement, Tim's life mattered. And it sounds to me from the story I heard, he could go down that list and check yes, 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 and yes to every one of those questions. You know, I'm a big believer in something that I call holy collisions. And what I mean by that is if you go over the course of our lives, there are certain times that we are lucky enough to run into the exact right person at the exact right season of our lives for the exact right reason that we were supposed to run into that person. That to me is a holy collision. You might be sitting next to one of your holy collisions right now. You think back to that first moment you met. Where did you see each other that first time? Who started the first conversation? And what was it you saw in each other that has led to the significant relationship it is today? Because if you think about it, we can set aside all of our accomplishments, everything we've ever owned, and what life really boils down to, especially on a day like today, is relationships. Wouldn't it be amazing to be able to look down this room right now and see all the years of relationship that are present in this room? All the conversations, all the memories, all the moments. And whenever I have a privilege to do a service like this, I consider this group sitting in this room right now, we're our own version of a holy collision. Try to explain why this group of human beings would ever be at the same place at the same time. And yet, to be honest, when we parked our cars a few minutes ago, I would venture to say that a lot of us have things we're worrying about. We have decisions we're trying to make. There might be something going on in your life today that no one else in this room is even aware of. And all that stuff's going to be waiting for us when we go back to our busy lives. So my hope and my prayer is that with the few minutes we have here today, by the time we go back and get in our cars, we're going to take some of this man's spirit with us. And to me, that is the best way to celebrate someone's life. So before I go any further, if you would be comfortable joining me, I'd like to invite you, if you would, to join me for word of prayer. Okay? Let's pray. God, I thank you for this holy collision, for the generations, for the energy, for the memories. And God, I don't understand how you do it, but I have a personal belief that you can look down on a room like this and you know what's going on in the lives of every person sitting in every chair in this room. So I pray with the few minutes we have today to pay attention to Tim's story, that we might remember something or gain perspective on something or feel something that we could immediately take from his story and put it into place in ours. And by doing that, make sure that his legacy lives on generation after generation. And it's in your name we pray these things. Amen. You know, I got to ask the girls about his main holy collision, which was his beautiful wife, Valerie. And they told me this story, but I always ask how they met. No offense, but if I ask a son, they very seldom know any details, but the daughters always know the details. And they said that she was from Minnesota and was working out over the summers at Yellowstone National Park. And Tim was out there with a friend and walked into where they were working. And those two guys saw those two girls, and they ended up marrying. Both couples ended up marrying and staying together and having those 60 years together. That was a holy collision. Think of the odds against that moment happening. And yet, if they hadn't met out there in Yellowstone, this family and all these beautiful children, it doesn't exist the way that it does right now. Well, I'm going to get out of the way for the next couple minutes because the people that know him best, a couple people are going to come up. Jenny's going to come up first and share, and then Tim's going to come up and share. So Jenny, come on.
Thank you, Brian. Well, I'll put these on first of all. As Brian said, I'm Jenny, and I'm Tim and Valerie's firstborn child, and the current matriarch of the Andrews family, which is very freaky to me, as of last Thursday, or whenever it was, 27. I'm probably the only person in the family too who can get through this, hopefully, without dissolving into a puddle of tears when we talking about my dad. So, I'm here, as I said, on behalf of my brother and sister to honor our dad, Tim Andrews, who, as you all know, was funny and kind and humble and just, he was a guy who always had a twinkle in his eye and whose generous heart just always reached out to people who were in need. As the second son of three sons of Jim and Florence Andrews, Dad learned peacemaking skills very early in life, and negotiation skills as well, I'm sure. And those things really helped him throughout his whole life. His devotion to country, which you saw today, it was just one reflection of the loyalty and the sense of responsibility that he always felt and that God. As a young man, as they said, he along with his brother Bob, whose kids are here today, joined the Army, the 25th Infantry Division during the occupation of Japan, and right after World War II. And prior or after that, he also served as an officer in the U.S. Air Force Reserves. One of the pivotal moments in my dad's life, his professional life, was getting fired. He got fired from Western Auto early in his career, and he would look back on that and say it was one of the best things that ever happened to him, because it led him to a 50-plus year career with Pacific Life. And in that job, he really excelled, and he was recognized in 1980 as the Agent of the Year for the whole U.S. So it was a job he loved, it was a job he was very good at. And he was honored professionally many, many times throughout his career, but also honored for his commitment to his community. And Dad really, really loved his community. He poured every ounce of energy into leading the Kettering Chamber of Commerce, the Kettering Oakwood Exchange Club, the Community Improvement Corporation, and a lot of other things as well. He also lent his time to military affairs associations, to museums, to civic clubs, and to charitable groups. So he was always busy. His 70-plus years as a Mason, and then also with the Shrine clubs, speaks to that lifelong feeling of devotion and fellowship and tradition and service. I always loved the story that my dad used to tell. He once ran for public office. I think it was Kettering City Council. And he would tell his friends after his loss, he would say, yeah, man, I was nosed out by a landslide. So that was him. He had a lot of humor, humility, grace, all the time. But if you knew our dad, and I know he's got good friends here today, you know that his life was just not about work and titles and roles. It was really about joy. He and our mom had a huge group of friends, and Margie Miller, you're here. Jerry Bush, thank you so much for being here. You're part of that huge group of friends who he and my mom enjoyed them tremendously. Our parents traveled they just traveled constantly. They explored all 50 states and more than 80 countries, including all 7 continents. So they were always on the go. And as you heard, Dad loved tennis, he loved golf. And, you heard the story about what he did on his 90th birthday, so I'm in awe of that. And then, those of you who knew him well knew about his love of poetry. It's kind of an Andrews family tradition. A lot of us learned poetry in Celina. Where are the reunions were? Mendon, Montezuma, yeah. We learned a lot of poetry because of our great aunt Mabel, and there was money involved in learning of the poetry. And I think I still have the $12. But Dad memorized over 100 poems in his lifetime, many of which he could still recite literally until his final days. Those poems were not just words to him, they were really reminders of rhythm and the beauty of life and the deeper truths about life. And while he did attend church at my mother's, what we call urging, was more like demanding, but organized religion wasn't really his thing. But he had a deep and very long-lasting spiritual relationship with God. To all of us, he was dad, he was grandpa, he was great-grandpa. He was the one with the ready smile and the twinkling eyes, and a poem always on his lips. So we'll miss him deeply. But we're also really joyful that he's together with our mom again, and he leaves us with so much. We have good stories to retell, we have values that he's given us, and, you know, we've got a spirit that will continue on through the generations that you see here. His life was one of humor, of service, of joy, and today we honor not only who he was, but also what he was, who he lived, how he lived through all of his family. Now it's up to us to carry that kindness forward and laugh as he would laugh and enjoy life as he would enjoy life. And with that, I'm sure all of my Andrew's kin can help me with this, but I'm going to recite a poem that we have all learned. I think it's been recited at pretty much every Andrew's funeral forever. It's called Crossing the Bar, and it's in the little booklet. So, sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no morning of the bar when I get out to sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too still for sound and foam. And that which moves from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. But let there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out the bourne of time and place, the floods may bear me far, I know I'll see my pilot face to face when I cross the bar. With that, I'd love to have my brother Tim come up.
Okay. Well done.
Strange things done.
Yeah, so this will be interesting. So I really haven't had a good cry since he died. So I'll probably have a good one now in front of everybody. But if I do, just know that, I'm at peace. I'm really happy. My dad, and wish I could these people could call me. But anyway, my dad was a very kind, intelligent, and caring person. He had a great work ethic and a strong moral compass. He was as loyal, honest, and trustworthy as they come. He had common sense, and he used it daily. He was an optimist and believed in the power of positive thinking. He was a very good businessman who started with only an education and a desire to succeed, and build a thriving business and a fine life for his family. He believed in education as a key to success. He did everything possible to assure his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren a college education. He was very patriotic and loved his country. He loved his friends and people in general. He served in many capacities in many organizations to help others to make his community and the country for all better. Besides being generous with his time, he was also generous financially with his contributions to a wide variety of organizations. He was a walker. He was a golfer. He was a bowler. He was a tennis player. He was a fisherman. He was a shriner. He was a poet. He was a traveler. He was an adventurer. He was also a fine son, brother, husband, father, uncle, father-in-law, grandfather, and great-grandfather. He was a friend. He was an all-around good guy. He loved his family dearly, did many things for them, and made many sacrifices. Although he wasn't much of a churchgoer, he was a man of faith in his own quiet and private way. He believed in the power of the Almighty. He loved our mother dearly. And there was a void in his life for the past 9 years that he tried to hide. The beautiful thing is, that void is forever filled as they reunite in heaven. He was also an outstanding teacher. He taught us all so many things: honesty, integrity, loyalty, compassion, justice, forgiveness, hard work, perseverance, honor, patriotism, a positive attitude, and love. He may have also taught us a few poems along the way, as my sister mentioned. I always felt at ease with my dad. I felt respected. I felt valued. I felt important. And above all else, I felt loved. As he taught us well, I can only hope that we have learned well, and we can, in some small way, be as fine a human being as he was. And in my heart, he always will be. He was an inspiration. He was a role model. And he was my hero. God bless him. Thank you.
That was powerful. That was really powerful. And that just echoes the conversation that we were able to have. I'm never quite prepared for hearing. I don't know, I know you haven't had a good cry, but you just made everyone listen. And that's what an honor. And that's the way life is supposed to be lived. You know, when I talked to them, they told me about when Valerie passed back in 2016. And I asked, how did he handle it? He said it was rough. It was really rough. But what struck me is I got to hear the story of their life and how they loved traveling together and playing the cards and the friends and all the social. What struck me is not only did they love each other, but they liked each other. And that's a special gift to be able to pass on. I asked them, I said, if your dad's life taught you any life lessons, what did you learn just by watching how he did it? And they said, respecting people, just being respectful in general, working hard, education, providing for those you love. And he carried that on until the very end. They told me about the special relationship that he had with his caregivers, even during these last months. And I know that we were talking about some of the memory issues that he was facing, and that's tough. On this side of heaven, I'm not sure there's anything harder than loving someone through those issues, because sometimes it feels like you've had to say goodbye twice. I didn't grow up in the church, but I was part of a youth group, and every Wednesday night we went to visit a local nursing home, and we each had a couple of adopted grandparents that we visited. My adopted grandma was a lady named Charlotte, and back then they didn't really call it Alzheimer's or dementia, but and I always loved visiting her because you never quite knew what stories you were going to hear. She had been the first lady at one point, part of the royal family. She said she had dated Elvis. Every Wednesday night when I was there at 6:30, the television was always on, and the old show MASH was always on at 6:30 on Wednesday nights. And every time one character came on, played by McLean Stevenson, she would point to that character and tell me that was her nephew. I mean, it's just story after story after story. And I knew her for about 2 years, and one of those last nights, as her health was failing, I went up to see Charlotte. walked into her room, and I kid you not, McLean Stevenson was sitting next to her in her bed because he really was her nephew. And then I was like, well, what was Elvis like? Now I don't know. And I share that today. Tim and I got to visit a little bit, and they got to tell me about the visits that they were able to have with their dad. And I'm not a medical expert, but I believe that there are a lot of times when those clouds part and they know that you're there. They know that the great-grandkids are there. And the beautiful thing now, because of what he believed, that this life is only chapter 1, he's in a place right now where there are no memory issues. There's no COVID. There's no war in the Middle East. There's none of the things that we have to face on this side. And I believe with every fiber in my being that he is reunited to his girl. And if you share that belief on any level on a day like today, you don't have to say goodbye. You can simply say and mean it, we'll see you later. We will see you later. I'd like to close my time with you today with a reading that I picked out in honor of the way that both your mom and your dad, but especially your dad today, lived his life. It's part of a speech that Hannah Quinlan gave one afternoon to a group of graduates at Villanova. And it's one of the most powerful things I've ever heard, and I want to share it as I close in honor of Tim and his life. She said, you walk out of here today with the one thing that no one else has. There will be hundreds of people out there with your same degree. There will be thousands of people that do what you do for a living. But you will be the only person alive who has sole custody of your life, your particular life, your entire life. Not just your life at a desk or your life on a bus or in a car or at the computer. Not just the life of your mind, but the life of your heart. Not just your bank account, but your soul. People these days don't talk about the soul very much anymore because it's much easier to write a resume than it is to craft a spirit. But a resume is a cold comfort on a winter night, or when you're sad or broke or lonely, or when you've gotten back the test results and they're not so good. So she said, here's my resume. I tried to be a good parent. I tried to never let my profession stand in the way of being a good parent. I no longer consider myself the center of the universe. I showed up, I listened, and I tried to laugh. I'm a good friend to my spouse. I've tried to make my marriage vows mean what they say. I showed up, I listened, and I tried to laugh. I'm a good friend to my friends, and they are to me. Without them, there would be nothing to say to you today. I would simply be a cardboard cutout. So I call them on the phone when I can. I meet them for lunch. I show up, I listen, and I try to laugh. I would be rotten or at best mediocre at my work if those other things were not true. Because you cannot really be first rate at your work if your work is all you are. So she said, this is the advice I want to give you. And I have a feeling that if Tim could somehow miraculously be standing where I'm standing, he would give us all the exact same advice. Get a life. Get a real life. Not just a manic pursuit of the next promotion or a bigger paycheck or a larger house. You think you'd care so very much about those things if you blew an aneurysm one afternoon or found a lump in your breast. Get a life in which you're not alone. Find people that you can love and people that will love you back. And remember that love is not leisure, it's really hard work. So pick up the phone, send an email, write a letter, kiss your mom, hug your dad. Get a life in which you are generous and realize that life is the best thing ever and we have no business taking it for granted. She said, I learned this many years ago because something really bad happened, something that if I'd had a choice would have never happened at all. But it has taught me the biggest lesson of my life. I have learned to love the journey and not the destination. And I learned that this life is not a dress rehearsal, and today is really the only guarantee that any one of us in this room will get. So I try to do that by telling everybody this advice. Consider the lilies of the field. Take a moment to look at the fuzz on the back of a baby's ear. Read a book in the backyard with the sun shining in your face and learn to be happy. And think of life as a terminal illness because if you do, you will live it with joy and passion as it ought to be lived. And it seems to me, after hearing Tim's story, this is a man who lived his life with joy and passion exactly as it ought to be lived. And if we could all walk out of this room today with that same kind of joy and passion, wouldn't this world be a better place? As we close today, the kids described him as a super patriot. And so what we're going to do as we dismiss today is we're going to listen to the song America the Beautiful. And then as we do that, if you just sit for a moment and listen to that, and then following the song, Max will come and give us our dismissal instructions. Okay? Let me pray, and and then we'll listen to the song. God, thank you again for these moments. Thank you for the powerful words that we heard from Jenny and Tim, and for all the obvious emotion that's in this room, but also for the knowledge that there are generations in this room that are going to carry on these same family values. So I pray that as we end our time today, that the healing process is only just beginning, and the power of Tim's story and the influence of his life will carry on not only today, but in the weeks, months, and years to come. In your name we pray these things. Amen.
Bear, come on, sit.
Thanks, Brian. In just a moment, I'm going to open up these doors here. We have lunch waiting for you all. I will be around the entirety. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please see me or one of my associates, and we'll direct you accordingly. That being said, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor to host you guys. Please, nobody's leaving here hungry. I promise you that. Please eat as much as you want. Beverages are out there as well. Yeah, that's, you know.
What is it?